Grace and peace to you, people of God, as you gather for worship again from a distance through technological means. Thank you for gathering. I'm thinking today about the extreme economic impacts of COVID-19 pandemic and the way that the most vulnerable in our society can be pushed to the edge of crisis in these lean times if they've lost a job, if their children can't get free or reduced lunches at school when they're closed, and even for undocumented immigrants in this country who don't qualify for stimulus or other aid. It's a difficult time. And so the story that comes to my mind is the story of Jesus being out on the hillside with a crowd of people who had come to hear him preach. And at the end of the day, it was dinner time and most people hadn't brought food with them, and the disciples were concerned and said, send them back to the villages so that they can get something to eat. And Jesus turned to the disciples and said, no, you feed them. And so the disciples went out in the crowd and they said, who's got something to share that all might eat? And they brought back 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus took the 5 loaves and 2 fish and held them up to God and blessed them, and the disciples then took them out into the crowd and began to distribute them. And by the time it was all said and done, 5,000 people had been fed, and there was an abundance left over. This was a miracle story that happened that Jesus did in order to show us that when we share what we have with people in need, it is enough. It's enough for us, it's enough for them, and it is more than we could ever have imagined. And so in this time, when we know that our neighbors may be struggling financially as a result of the virus, we all need to reach deep into our pockets and say, what have we got that we can share? And today I encourage you to be sure that you're giving regularly to your local church so that its ministries can continue uninterrupted. And then if you have a little bit more that you can share, and if you think you've got more than some of your neighbors may, I encourage you to make a contribution to the Fund for Families. It'll be distributed through our local churches in their partnerships with community organizations to people who really need help. And finally, if you're receiving a stimulus check from the CARES Act of the federal government, but you don't really need it, you have a regular source of income or you have other resources that you can draw upon, I encourage you to pass that stimulus along to a family that may need it more. And again, through the Fund for Families. These are the ways in which Jesus has taught us that we can help everyone enjoy the abundant life that Jesus came to ensure that we would all have. I give you thanks in advance for your generosity, and I pray that whatever you're able to share, God will bless it and multiply it so that all may live well. God bless you in these days and all the days to come.